So reviewing what inverse sine and tan are, what inverse cosine is, remembering that the denominator of 6 is this ordered pair, so we know the denominator of 3 is that same thing switched. We need to write down the denominator of 4? I don't think so. I think we all know that. Here's one more thing I might have mentioned on Friday, I might not have. I know I've said this to you guys many a time. When I work with trig, I don't mess up on my denominators of 6, 4, or 3. Anytime I make a mistake, it tends to be at the quadrantals. So just drawing this, I can do a quick glance at it. Anytime I need to find cosine or sine at any of the quadrantals. Okay, so let's go through these. When is sine square root of 3 over 2? What denominator? Oh, and remember, all of our answers, whenever we're talking about inverse trig functions, your answer is a theta. The question is, what is our theta? That's what all of these ask, okay? So, as we just said, sine is 1/2 with a denominator of 6, so I know it's got to be a denominator of 3. And it's a negative angle, so it's got to be in quadrant 4. But it's not 5 pi over 3, because that's going around and terminating and wrapping counterclockwise and terminating there. This is going just taking a little shortcut, so it's all negative pi over 3. So we know square root of 2 over 2 is denominators of 4, whether it's cosine or sine, right? That's the easy one. That's why we didn't even really talk about it too much. And then we're in quadrant 2 if we are negative, okay? So remember, in quadrant 2, we just subtract 1 from our denominator. Tan tricks. What's my denominator going to be? 3. Quadrant 1 is where we're positive. Remember, we can only choose 1 or backwards 4. And then here's that moment of why I like to draw this. It takes me just as long to draw this as it would for me to stop and kind of figure out where 0 is the y value. So this is just nice and easy. I quick glance at my little picture, and sine is 0 at 0. And you can write 0 or 0 pi. Okay? Let's remember how to do the calculator and the rounding part. We always put our answer in radians, except for one situation, which I'll talk about in a minute. And your classmates were just working with it in last period, so you always want to clear your RAM, because right now a lot of your calculators might be in degrees, okay? So remember, when you clear your RAM, it defaults you right back to radians. You don't have to worry about it, okay? But if you were worried about it and you wanted to check, mode is where you would go, and if you notice, radians on my calculator is highlighted. So I'm in radian mode right now, okay? So just putting these in our calculator, the same way we did on Friday. Second cosine, 5 divided by 7. And I'm going to go ahead and put the answers up. You guys put it in your calculator, and I'll reveal the answers in a moment. We have to be able to round correctly, y'all. We have to. If you didn't get these answers, check your mode. Did you use inverse instead of regular old sine, cosine, or tangent? Okay. If you had trouble with those when we're done in a few minutes, just let me know and I will come over and help you through it. Okay, so that's a review of what we did on Friday. Now go to page, thank you, 103, thank you, Sadie. It's not 104-ish, it's exactly page 103. And let's talk about how to do inverse trig functions with a word problem. So this is 3.9, day 2. You can say continued if you want to. Okay, so guys, you've worked with right triangle trig before, given a theta and missing one of the sides of the triangle. Like if I called this 23.5 degrees, I called this 8, and I called this x, okay? you were told to find x, right? So then you had to think, okay, SOHCAHTOA, opposite hypotenuse, right? I'm working with, in relation to this angle, opposite and hypotenuse. Which trig function uses opposite and hypotenuse? Sine, right? So sine of our angle would have been op over height. And then you solved it. In your calculator, you did sine of this, multiplied by, did the whole thing. Okay, so we've done that before. What's different is not a whole lot, guys. Bless you. The question, let me read. An airplane flies at an altitude of 5 miles toward a point directly over your house. So nice picture here, altitude, height, 5 miles. There's your house flying towards this point over it. So writing this as a function, writing it as an equation, we would say, okay, in relation to this angle, what would 5 miles be? Opposite. And the only other side we're talking about here, even though we don't know it, but it's labeled for us, that would be what? Adjacent, right? So which tan function is that? Tan. Yeah, tan. So there's two different ways we can write it. We can say tan, inverse tan, anytime we're trying to find an angle, right? That's what we are missing. We use the inverse. Inverse tan is op over adjacent. That's one way of writing it. Okay? Or, and these are both valid, you'll see them both ways. You might see inverse tan of 5 over x equals theta. Either way, bottom line is we're trying to find an angle in this next example, part of the example where they give us what the x value is. So, now let's plug it in. Tan of theta equals 5 over 8, right? They gave us x is 8. And then seeing that symbol, knowing you're trying to find theta, you want to use your inverse tan button. So when you do that, you should get approximately 5.559. Does that look right? Radians. Okay, but remember I said something about degrees? In the real world, and we don't use radians to talk about thetas, okay? Like, you think about when any kind of aviation, whether we're talking about flying or driving or anything, it's always degrees. Think about longitude and latitude, all that stuff. So when we have a real world problem, usually we're going to put our answer in degrees. So anybody have an idea of how we could do that? How we do it? Change the mode, right, Levi? Exactly. That's why I said your classmates might have changed the mode from radians to degrees, as you're going to do right now. So when you just highlight, you just see how it's blinking there. I have to hit enter. So now it's like dark. And you can either hit clear or second quit to get out of here. Hitting clear doesn't clear that off of it, okay? You're fine to go out of there. And then you can just type that same thing right in your calculator. Second cosine 5 divided by, oops. Sorry, that's not the same problem. Second tan, 5 divided by 8. And that would be about 32 degrees. So if you see a degree symbol, you know it's degrees. If there's no degree symbol, it's radians, or sometimes you'll see the word written next to it. Okay, so word problem, not difficult. So what your homework is just 1 through 7 here, and 2 word problems, page 107. Sorry, I don't know, my shirt is knocking this all around. Page 107, numbers 22 and 23. 2 homeworks. There's not 2 homework. This is 1 homework. So 1 through 7, and then these 2 word problems. Okay? Guys, you can copy the key, right? Copy it. but don't really, okay? Use it to check your answers. Don't just copy mine. You'll have plenty of time to work on other things.